The next interesting thing too is housing starts. I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit, but this is just a really bad picture, generally speaking. Nationally, national housing starts dropped 3% month over month in March. They're now down 12% year over year, hitting the lowest amount of monthly housing starts in 6 years. The 6-month moving average for starts has been trending down now for 2 straight years, and we're just getting started, I think. Expect this to hit decade lows by the end of the year, and BC is down 5% month over month and 12% year over year. But getting hyper-local into the Vancouver market, it's down a massive 36% year over year. By this time in 2024, we had 7,600 new homes that had started construction. This year, it's 4,800, with over 16,000 active resale listings as well. It just doesn't feel like there's a housing shortage out there today. Though as starts continue to collapse, and this is rightfully a collapse, the potential of notable future inventory shock to the supply, it's almost inevitable at this point.
So much for the Housing Accelerator Fund, huh? That doesn't seem to be really having much effect. And let's look at what's kind of driving this massive decline in starts. Well, if people aren't buying new homes, people aren't going to build new homes. And in Toronto continues to be the epicenter, and it just gets worse and worse on a weekly basis. And we want to expand a bit on how severe the state of pre-sale condos in Toronto really is. So last week, we reported that the Q1 sales in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area was only 533, which was 88% below the 10-year average, an absolute collapse. The city of Toronto, when we get even more narrow here, saw only 215 sales. That is the lowest amount of pre-sale condo sales in the city of Toronto since 1990. It's a 35-year low. Developers are pulling back in droves. Just check out these numbers, for example. Since the beginning of 2024, 28 projects totaling 5,700 new homes were either put on hold, they were canceled, placed in receivership, or converted to purpose-built rentals. Only 2 projects launched for pre-sales in Q1 of this year, only 2, totaling 275 units. So last year, we lost 5,700 new homes not coming to market. And in 3 months, only 275 homes were brought to market this year. This is an absolute glaring example of the completion cliff coming our way and the future shortage of homes. So while government leaders have touted these pipe dreams of building, 4 million homes by 2031, or doubling the amount of homes they can build per year, the reality is in fact the exact opposite, demonstrated very clearly in the numbers. Now, this is where it gets a little more terrifying. Unsold new condominium inventory totaled 24,000 units, increasing by about 6% from a year ago. It sits around 58% above the 10-year average. Unsold inventory is equal to 78 months of supply based on the pace of sales over the last year. This is an absolute record high that is approximately 7 times greater than the balanced and long-term average of about 10 to 12 months of supply. So if no new homes were brought to market, you would still have about 6 years of inventory to eat through in the pre-sale space in Toronto. I mean, it's a catastrophic level of inventory within the pre-sale marketplace that will result in further developers probably going out of business. Let's be honest here. So let's break down what's actually selling to get a further understanding of this problem. So of the new condo sales that actually happened in Q1, the average sale price was $1,151 per square foot. That is down 7% from a year ago when they were hitting about $1,232 a foot. Furthermore, of the projects generating sales activity, you got to think here, they have to be heavily incentivized, okay? They're giving cash back, they're doing rental guarantees, extending deposit payments, furnishing bonuses, all sorts of stuff just to get any type of product move, and that's obviously eating into the profits. So overall, the asking price for this unsold inventory is about $1,339 a square foot. So yes, even that is a 2% decline from a year ago, But you got to think, from asking to sold price per foot is a 16% gap. That is essentially the entire profit margin being wiped out. With the current landscape showing there's essentially zero profit to be made and more likely significant losses are being realized, what developer is going to come to market, right? They're just going to sit on the sidelines. Now, this creates the obvious problem of sitting there not creating revenues, right? So they've got overhead, they've got staffing. How long can a developer go without building before they go bankrupt? I mean, check this number out. A total of 497 condo units started construction in the GTHA during Q1 of this year. That's 79% drop from a year ago and 88% below that 10-year average, reaching its lowest quarterly total dating back to 1996. This means we can expect massive layoffs in the construction sector, with Toronto continuing to be the epicenter of the issue.